Is it a new look for the North Carolina Tar Heels this season? We're going to talk about it on 94 Feet of UNC.
Doherty to Black. The time, 18. Shot, Jordan! Michael Jordan!
Swicker with the defense and the rebound. That's a good effort by Swicker.
Stackhouse streaking in on Parks. Rebound stock is good, and he gets fouled by Parks. Oh my goodness, what a dunk by Stackhouse.
Interesting that he brought him back so quickly, but you know what? They're down 8. It's fair to
the glass no good. Rebound followed by Hansbrough. Good! Carolina.
inside 30 overall. Love, top of the key.
Alice about this over. Carolina. The Tar Heels have won the national championship.
And that is it. There is a new team in college basketball. North Carolina takes the title. Happen any final. North Carolina is the 2009 national champion. And this year, the confetti is going to fall to North Carolina. They're not going to be denied this time.
What's up, everybody? It is Thursday, September 19th. You are tuned in to the 94 Feet of UNC podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Graham. I got a special guest in the building with me today, but before we get into introducing him and everything, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel at 94 Feet of UNC. Also, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter, also at 94 Feet of UNC, so that you don't miss out on any content that I provide for you guys, because you never know who's going to stop in here at the Zell Dome. I tell y'all every episode. So make sure that you tuned in and you hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on anything. Also, we got 94 Feet of UNC podcast merchandise coming soon. So if you subscribe to the channel and following me on social media, then you'll get all of the insight on free giveaways and contests and things like that. That's going to be happening soon. Like I said, I got a special guest in the building with me today, a legend in my eyes. I got Mr. Adam Lucas from the Carolina Insider Podcast. Adam, how are you, my guy?
Lindsay, doing great. Fired up after watching that intro. That's a lot of fun Tar Heel moments right there. That must mean it's basketball season.
That's right. That's right. Listen, man, so many people have told me about the intro and everything, that it just gets them in a mood, I guess, or something like that. But of course, I mean, it's Carolina, so it's supposed to, right?
We're really fortunate to have a lot of moments like that we've all gotten to experience, thanks to all these players and coaches who have done such great things. Just lucky to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I could have made a 20-minute video, but who wants to sit during all of that, I guess, right? So,
You know that, Lindsay. Come on now. You'd sit through that.
I tell you what, I'll go back and redo one, and I'll just invite some people on, and we'll just sit and just watch, man, because there is a bunch of memories we could just put together and just have a ball and just watch and just think about where we was during that time and how it felt and everything. So I'll make sure I try to do that sometime soon for you, Adam, for sure. So, Adam, tell everybody about yourself and everything, and what it is that you do and everything.
I just follow around the Tar Heels. Been doing this for a while now. I write on GoHeels.com. Jones Angel and I co-host the Carolina Insider Podcast. I edit the Rams Club magazine. So wherever the Tar Heels are, that tends to be where I am. And this is exactly what I've always wanted to do. I grew up as a Carolina fan and really thought I'd play for the Tar Heels. But it turns out, this might surprise you, you got to be really good to play for the Tar Heels. And that is not what I was. But they let you keep going to the games if you can just write a couple articles about them. And so that's what I've been doing, and hoping to keep doing it for a while.
Absolutely. Listen, we appreciate all of the hard work that you have put in. And I wish I would have known that, because, there could have been a Adam Lucas jersey out there somewhere, man, that I could have probably purchased or whatever. Might have to get one specially made just for you, Adam. You know what I'm saying? We might have to do that. Make
That
something
would
happen.
be
Sure.
huge seller. I can only imagine the ones of copies that would be sold of that.
Let me ask you, what number would you have wore?
I would have been 30 because Kenny Smith was my guy. That's who I pretended to be when I was in the driveway. So I would have definitely been number 30.
I got you. I got you. Shout out to the Jet, man, for sure. So I absolutely, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. We got to see what we can do as far as getting something made for you, man. So we'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. I got to get with some of the other guys and see if we could put something together for the legend himself. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely, absolutely. So Adam, take me through. How did you get into like? Because I know you just kind of talked about it just a little bit briefly there, just for a second. Take us through how you became a writer and then jumping into the podcasting space for the university.
Uh, I pulled it off the same way both times. Had no idea what I was doing. The writing side, I was in law school at Carolina. I made it through a whole semester, but then after that semester, the ACC games started. And Lindsay, I got to tell you, some of those start at 9 o'clock at night. Well, that's not real conducive to some of those 8 a.m. classes. So, unfortunately, in law school, the professor would call on you and then like keep calling on you for the rest of that class. It would be your day. Well, my
Mhm.
day in contracts turned out to be the day after the Tar Heels had played a night game. Well, I didn't have time to read law school junk when the Tar Heels were on, so I hadn't done any of the homework. Professor called on me. It very quickly became apparent that I didn't know what was going on. Usually they just hammer you the rest of the class, but in this case, he took pity on me and moved on to someone else, but then said to me, "Hey, Adam, come up and see me after class." Well, any of us who have been in a class know exactly what that means. So I sat there and sweated the rest of the class and then went up and talked to him. By this time, everybody was gone. And he looked out in the class, which probably had, I don't know, maybe like 100 empty seats at this point. And he said, "Do you see all those chairs?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, the people who fill those chairs feel the exact same way about the law that you do about Carolina basketball." Well, that was a surprise to me because I thought everybody hated it like I did. I thought they were sitting there miserable like I was. So
Right.
walked down the hall, went down to the dean's office, withdrew from law school. Then I really needed a job so that I could tell my parents that I had dropped out of law school. And so I went to the Rams Club. And at that point in time, they didn't have a magazine. And I told them, "Hey, look, here's the state magazine. Here's the Duke magazine. You don't have a magazine, but you need one." And
Right.
they unwisely said, "Do you know how to do that?" And I didn't have a job and I had dropped out of school. So the answer obviously was, "Yes, of course I know how to do that." And they said, "Well, great. Let's do the first one in about 2 months." So that gave me a whole month to figure out how to do it before we actually had to start.
Yeah.
So figured that out and been doing it for about 20 years now. And the podcasting thing, Jones and I have been talking about it for a while. Learfield wanted to start one at several of their properties, Carolina, Alabama, a couple others. At that point in time in my entire life, I had listened to a grand total of 0 podcasts. I think maybe Jones had listened to one.
Right.
And we just got together and started talking and recording it, and it worked. We had done baseball for a fairly long time for Carolina during the stretch when the Tar Heels were going to Omaha quite a bit, so we had that familiarity, and it just worked. And the main thing is we've been lucky to have a ton of really great guests come on. Maybe one day you'll get to have a great guest, Lindsay. So far, if it's just Pete and me, I mean, look, that's not strong. David Noel's going to have to bring it home for us. But people have been so nice to come on with us and tell us all sorts of stories about the Tar Heels, and that's what's made it work for all this time.
Absolutely, man. Like I was saying earlier, man, I truly appreciate all of the hard work that you put in because with all of your hard work it's been able to be shown to the public, such as people like myself, as far as fans, back in the days and things like that. And then, like I said, motivating me to want to jump into this space as well. and just watching you and Jones. Shout out to Jones, man. Like, got to get him on the show too for sure. But like I said, just being able to watch you guys, and the having the guest on, and things like that, and my dream, like you, it was always to play at UNC as well. Well, of course, unfortunately, that didn't happen for me either. Like you said, you got to be good in order to play at UNC. So apparently, I wasn't that good, I guess you could say. But just just being a fan, and of this university, and just looking at the legacy that it has put on on the school itself, but in the sport itself as a whole. Like, being able to put a lot of greats into the league, and just having these amazing coaches that have came through here during that I can remember. With Coach Smith and Coach Williams, and now Coach Davis. It's just it's remarkable, man. And I mean, hats off to you and John, because you guys do an incredible job over there at Carolina Insider. Um, Maybe one day I could come and sit in the chair that Hubert sits in or something, because it's a motivational thing for me, and I'm just glad that I'm able to get into this space, being able to talk to legends such as yourself, such as Pete, such as David, and got some other special guests coming in the future, just working some things out and everything. But I'm loving it. I can tell that you've been passionate about it, and that's the same way that I feel, just now getting started in this whole thing. Like, the passion, and that just makes it 10 times more better, 10 times more better, and more exciting to be able to do this. So incredible job, and we appreciate you for sure, you and John. I got to make sure I add him in as well. And of course, I got to give him his flowers whenever he decides to come on and everything. So he will get his flowers and things as well. So, but we appreciate you guys being fans, and everything. Like, it's just remarkable. So hats off
I,
to you for sure.
I
So
appreciate that. I think we're both
absolutely,
mindful that every day, even on the very worst day, we're going to work at the Smith Center. So
yeah,
that is not work to 99.9% of the world's population. So we're lucky to get to do it, and lucky to get to call that the office, and get to talk about the Tar Heels and write about the Tar Heels, and hopefully help folks live through it a little better, experience it a little better. That's what Woody Durham did for me when I was growing up.
yeah.
Listened to him every single game that I could, and to get to be just a tiny little part of the way people experience the Tar Heels is a really big deal to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie. I used to always sit and just watch, like, man, how did them guys get to the studio so fast? Like, they talk about the game and that they was there and all of that, and then next thing you know, like, they're in the studio already. Like, that studio must be on campus and very close to the Smith Center for sure, for them to just be able to commute from one building to the next. Like, that's a beautiful thing, man. So, listen. I wish I had a studio over there. That would be great for me for sure. I attended, as a matter of fact, I attended a few games last season, and unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to get down there to speak to you and Joan, because I noticed that you all sit, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of across the court from from the away team's bench, but in the stands, like somewhere up down on that end. Am I right?
At home games, I do sit there. Jones is at the scores table,
Okay.
but I mean, he usually has several armed guards with him, so he's really tough to get to. You got to go through an eye scanner and all sorts of stuff to be able to get to him. But usually, that is where I am at home games. I try to, for at least part of the game, I'm sitting with my family at the games, because that's always what I've done ever since I've been going to Carolina games since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I like I said, me and my wife, because we normally sit up on the upper level, but I like the upper level only because of the fact that you can see everything. I like to see the whole arena. don't get me wrong, I would love to be courtside, but I mean, maybe one of these days here soon. I don't know, but hopefully that'll happen. But I like to sit up because I want to see everything. And my wife, this was her first year of actually going to a Carolina game, and she just absolutely fell in love with it. Absolutely. I mean, just like that. Like, she knows the songs now. Like, and I'm like, you've been studying these songs. Like, oh, okay. Listen. So, she always tells me, like, don't you ever do anything when it comes to going over to that Smith Center or football field, wherever, unless you take me with you. Like, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Not a
you
problem
gotta
at
listen to
all.
that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we didn't get the chance to get down there and speak to you because I just happened to look down there and I saw you standing down there. I was like, that's Adam. That's Adam right there. And then I saw Andrew Jones and just seeing a lot of people, like I said, that's in this podcasting space that I look up to, because of the you guys have been doing it. You guys are like the staple to me. So but hopefully, I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna change that this season. Like
Yeah,
we
definitely
definitely
come
going
say
to
hello.
some games. So I got to get down there and see and speak to you and everything, man, for sure, for sure. So Adam, let's jump into this right quick. How how good is this transfer portal class to you?
Yeah, that remains to be seen somewhat. And the good news is we'll get a little better taste with this preseason schedule coming up that's a little different from past years. Getting to see them against another team when the Tar Heels go to Memphis will be something different. It'll be a pretty good test.
Yeah.
I think it's really easy to tell, to kind of rank the players in the portal by talent. It's a lot harder to rank the players in the portal by fit. And I think that's what made someone like a Brady Manick so good for Carolina, because he really was the perfect fit. The Tar Heels have had some others who were not as good a fit. Then they've had some others who were, like Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram, really good fits and were exactly what the Tar Heels needed. Which group does this class fall into? I don't think you know until not only you see him on the court, but you got to face a little bit of adversity. You got to get yelled at in practice, which starts on Monday. You got to maybe lose a game or two. You got to have an off night shooting. You got to turn the ball over a time or two, and then you see how they handle stuff like that, and then you know really how do they fit. Carolina obviously needed some stuff in this class. You needed some leadership to replace Harrison and Cormac. Will this group be able to provide that? I would say to this point, they are not the same type of leaders that Harrison and Cormac were. That's just not in their nature, but you can be a leader and not necessarily be the loudest one on the court. So we'll see how that pans out. Did the Tar Heels want a 7-foot guy who scores 25 points and gets 25 rebounds every game? They absolutely did. Didn't get that guy. So they're going to have to make it work a little differently. This will be a very different Carolina team than ones we've seen in the past, where the big guy goes down to the block and posts up, and the Tar Heels throw the ball in there, and he does a post move and scores. That's not this team, probably, in most cases. So this team's going to play a little differently, and that'll be an adjustment for Carolina fans. But you know what? If the ball goes in the basket and you got more points than the other team does, Tar Heel fans going to decide that this way of playing is one of their favorites. They love it. So that's all the stuff we'll get to find out here in the next couple months.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. Like I think it is yet to be seen. I do think the pieces that they picked up were really good pieces. Of course, but like I said, how is it going to be when they face adversity, and get yelled at in practice, things like that? How are they going to bounce back from things when they do face, adversity and things like that? Like, so, they I'm like you, I don't see the dog mentality, I guess you could say, like Harrison was, like, one of the nicest guys that you could probably ever meet. But when he got on the court, it's like, I don't know, like I need to stay away from him. Like he becomes like a bully. So, and then Cormac having that edge, being a New York guy, and things like that. Like that, it showed on the court, and that's what I think really stood out with that team. And I think it last year's team was a really good team. Um, and they just of course they fell short in the Sweet 16, but when you're talking about chemistry and camaraderie and things like that, like they had it. And it's yet, like you said, it's just yet to be seen, of course, with these transfer portal guys that we had coming in this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how Hubert works that into the lineup, the rotations, things like that, and because he has a lot of flexibility this year, a lot more than he had last year, if you ask me. Um, Scoring options. I mean, he's got a boatload of scoring options to me this year than he had more so last year. So it's going to be interesting. As far as the ones that we missed out on, I don't know. Uh, it might have been maybe one or two guys that I might have really wanted. As far as in the portal that of course, that we missed out on, but you know, it is what it is. This is just a different team, something that we're not used to seeing, and we're gonna get a chance to see it this season. So just gotta wait and see how it all plays out. So I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm excited, but it's gonna be interesting for sure.
Well, schedule stacked. So we're going to find out early because Carolina's got to play some really good teams. So I would assume there are going to be some bumps there in November, but if it can get you ready for January, then that's right where you want to be. But I would not expect this team to be at full throttle that first week in November when, of course, they open with Elon, but then the very next game staring at you is a road trip to Kansas, which will just be electric. Second time ever Tar Heels have ever been to Lawrence, and a
Yeah,
place. I mean, I've always wanted to see a game, so really looking forward to that one. But the Jayhawks are really good, so that's a great test in week one.
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you this: just in the preseason schedule, if just a hypothetical, what would you give the record in the preseason schedule?
Oh, I it's funny. We talked about this, some folks in the program a couple years ago. It was the 22-23 season, and we said, "All right,
Mhm.
let's write down the record, what we think is going to be." I'm not going to tell you what I wrote down, but I'm going to tell you that I was A, the most optimistic, and B, the furthest off. So I am
Okay.
not doing that again. I think the Tar Heels will be an underdog in Lawrence. I think that the Maui Invitational is loaded. I think if you a really good team in Maui is going to go at least 1-2 and could potentially lose 3 games and still be a really good team. So if
Yeah.
the Tar Heels can get at least a couple wins there, and then I think you got that really big game with Alabama at the Smith Center, which I think all Tar Heels are tired of Alabama. So would love to win that one in front of a great atmosphere. Should be just a great crowd. And then you're not even done because you got to go to Charlotte, you got to go to Madison Square Garden. I mean, this schedule is loaded. So Carolina is going to lose a couple of games in that non-conference portion of the schedule. And remember, we don't have the ACC schedule yet as this is being recorded, but they're probably going to drop an ACC game in there in December. Traditionally, that's been one of the less marquee games, but who knows when the commissioner Jim Phillips throws all his ping pong balls in the little bucket and pulls out your first ACC game, you got no idea who that's going to be.
Right.
So that could be a tough game as well. So Tyro's going to have to be playing well early in the year.
Yeah, yeah. I'll jump out there, Adam. This go round, I guess.
Yeah, you tell me.
I think I think they're gonna go. I'm a I'll say 9-3.
Okay.
I, I'm gonna go 9-3.
So
Well, I'm gonna
you got
yeah.
maybe a loss at Kansas, maybe one loss in Maui, and then one somewhere else in that other group of big non-conference games.
I think yeah, those two for sure. Even though I do think that they can win Maui.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick a loss, one of those losses, it would be in the Maui, and then I'm thinking maybe Florida, which is going to be a tough game. I know it's in Charlotte. It is like a home game, but Florida's got a really good team, and I just think that it's a hiccup game. I'll say that it's a hiccup game.
And you're coming
But
off exams right in that time, which traditionally has been an unpredictable point in the schedule.
yeah, so but I think they beat UCLA at the Garden. Um, I think they beat Alabama at home. I think that the Dean Dome is going to be electrified that night. Um, and then you got all of these other schools, Elon and Campbell and those games. So yeah, I'm gonna go 9-3. I'm gonna be optimistic and say 9-3. I love to go undefeated, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But
Well, at 9-3, you've got really good NCAA tournament credentials because you've got multiple really solid non-conference wins setting you up to go into conference play and hopefully pick up a few more. As we know, the net is a little unpredictable,
yeah,
but hopefully that even the net would give you a pretty good rating if you went 9-3 against this non-conference schedule.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I might get jumped on for that, man, for throwing that out there or whatever. But hey,
Well, some
it's
people aren't
my
going to be
turn.
happy unless it's 12-0.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is not realistic.
No, I tell you this, if if they beat Kansas, then I might be looking at a 10-2, maybe 11-1.
Well, I mean, Carolina's beaten Kansas in a vast underdog role before, at least once in somewhat recent history when Coach Doherty was the coach when they played him in New York, and nobody expected anything out of that bunch of freshmen that Carolina had that turned out to be Raymond Felton, Sean May, that group, and beat him as the underdog in the 1957 championship game. Kansas had Wilt Chamberlain, and Carolina had mostly guys people weren't as familiar with, and Tar Heels pull it out in triple overtime. So it's happened
Yeah,
before.
yeah. I'm. We're gonna see. We're gonna see when the preseason is over and done with. I'm gonna text you and be like, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah, sounds good. I hope you're not.
I hope not. I hope not. I'm gonna be optimistic. I think 9-3 is a good record going into conference play. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. So let's move on to this. Do you think what we have in the front court is enough, like for this season? Like we don't have the typical big man. So I mean, it is what it is. There's nothing we could do about it now. So I mean, how do you feel about the front court, and do you think it's enough?
Well, I mean, is it enough to win in 1993? Probably not, because the
Right.
Tar Heels don't have that big center who anchors the middle both offensively and defensively. Is it enough to win in 2024-25? Could be.
Yeah.
You've got a really unproven guy, Jalen Washington, who's got a ton of talent. Contributions from him have kind of been a luxury to this point in his Carolina career. Now they're a necessity. Hubert
Right.
Davis is expecting him to grow up and give Carolina some good minutes. And then you're going to supplement him with multiple players who I think can give you multiple things on any one night. Vin Allen Lubin has played in the ACC already. Ty Claude has played in the ACC already and played really well against Armando Bacot last year. He's an
Yep.
older, tough, experienced player. I like having that guy in the paint
Yeah.
for me in the ACC, who's willing to bang a little bit and doesn't. He's not going to pout if he doesn't get the ball.
Right.
Vin Allen Lubin, same way. He'll just go get you an offensive rebound and either create a scoring chance for himself or for somebody else. So Carolina doesn't have the traditional front court that they've had in the past. You got Cade Tyson, who is a very good shooter, but probably is not going to post you up. Um,
Right.
so I think rebounding is a question. I think scoring in the paint is a question. And those are two areas that really have never been in question for the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
This is going to be a different team. So they're going to have to get just enough in those two categories to supplement what's going to be just an exceptional backcourt. I mean, we talked about the transfer portal and didn't really mention Seth Trimble. That's like getting a player in the transfer portal because he was in and then decided to come back. And I mean, you could make a case by January. We might be making a case that the Tar Heels' best five has four guards in it. So how do you choose to deploy those players? Who's coming off the bench? Who's starting? Who's getting the minutes? Those are questions that the coaching staff's really going to have to sift through this year and figure out what combinations work the best.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I didn't mention the backcourt because, like you said, the backcourt is loaded. Probably the best backcourt in the nation. I have North Carolina like right there, neck and neck with Rutgers. Um, I mean, Rutgers is as far as with their backcourt, but of course, got to edge it to North Carolina. I mean, we just have so many different weapons. I think Elliott is going to take a step forward for sure. RJ is going to be RJ. Ian Jackson is just incredible. Can't wait to see what he does on the floor. And then, like you said, Trimble, who I think is going to take another step forward, just like he took a step forward last year. I think he's going to be, he's going to take a whole nother step forward for this year. Um, you got Drake Powell, who I think is probably going to end up being the best defender on the floor. That's no slout or anything to Seth, but because we already know what Seth can do. But with Ian Jackson, because of his height and his size, um, and just being able to now you can really put someone like Drake Powell on a Cooper flag or something like that to maybe slow him down a little bit, not pretty much stop him, but slow him down a little bit. Whereas because if I'm not mistaken, Drake is 6'5", 6'6", whereas Seth Trimble is like 6'3". So you got a little bit more height to where now you can kind of you can mix it up a little bit, and everybody because it Carolina is so unique this year that you don't know who's going to be that guy on any given night. And that's what makes this team to me very dangerous because Seth can be that guy. RJ could be that guy. Elliott could be that guy by taking that step forward. Ian could be that guy. You got all of these scoring options. You got Cade Tyson, who you said, I mean, just a pure shooter. And then, the guys in the paint with Claude and Washington and Lubin and Withers, for that matter. But, they're very dangerous team. And I think a lot of people are underestimating them this year because of the fact that we don't have a big man. But that's fine. But the coaching staff will figure it out as they always do, right? Like that's their job basically. So, but I think they're going to be a really good team, and a lot better than what people are expecting and what people think they're going to be. Like I truly believe that because of the weapons that we have this upcoming season. So, who would your X factor be?
Oh, you just talked about him, Drake Powell. I mean, he's so fun to watch. He's the first guy in a few years who you watch him in practice and he'll do something and you kind of go, and you can imagine when he figures out how to do that consistently, that's a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
Because he has instincts and abilities that are not normal. And he's really shot the ball better so far. Carolina's been able to do some workouts, but you can't officially call them practices, even though really they're practices. But
Right.
you can't call them that because of the NCAA's rules. He shot the ball better than I maybe thought he was going to. I wouldn't say he's a pure shooter by any stretch of the imagination,
Right.
but he can shoot well enough to bring you up on him a little bit, and then he might go around you. Just his defensive instincts and ability to use his athleticism to get in passing lanes is going to be fun to watch this year. And he doesn't seem impressed by any of it at all. I don't think he has any concept of how good he is, which is fun to watch because that's not always the case in the modern era of college basketball.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what Drake does. I think he's gonna be like the Leaky Black type of player, but with a little bit more offensive game, of course, than Leaky had. So I can't wait to see what he brings to this team and what he's going to do on the court. I just it's just going to be. I think if him and Ian can really connect with each other on the court, that Carolina's going to be unstoppable because of the fact of the versatility between him and Ian. And then you add all of the other pieces around them, of course. I mean, it's like I said, so many weapons. Anybody could be that guy on any given night. Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Drake Powell does this year. I think my X factor is Jalen Withers. Um, I think I've mentioned this to a few other people. Um, but I think Jay Withers, if we can get if Coach Davis can get him to, I don't think we need him so much for offense. Of course, if he can deliver on offense, absolutely, we'll take it for sure. But I think because of him just being number one, 6'9", number two, the most athletic on the team, let's let's see if we can put him on the more of a defensive role to where now it makes teams kind of question whether or not they want to drive to the basket, whatever the case may be, because you don't know where he's at and he can fly above the rim, come swat it, send it to the crowd, whatever you want to call it. But, by him being the most athletic on the team and just a unique player, I think defense is like a focal point that if it was me, I would have him like really focus on, for this upcoming season. And if he delivers in that on the defensive end, that just makes Carolina even more dangerous because it's like, you get a fast team out there with him, RJ, Ian, and let's throw Drake out there. I mean, that team is just gonna run, 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 run. And like when I talked to Pete and when I talked to David Noel, like North Carolina is built on transition. And kind of might have gotten away from it just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, we still do it, but when Roy was there, that's all Carolina was built on. Run, 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 run. And if we can get it to that because of the flexibility that Coach Davis has this season, it's going to be a long season for a lot of teams, and Carolina's going to end up very dangerous, very dangerous. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, with a point guard like Elliot Cadeau, who I do think is going to make a pretty good jump to his sophomore season and has already been really good in the preseason, the Tar Heels are always going to be able to run because he can push it with the dribble or the pass. And the thing about him is he's better than people think finishing it himself. He doesn't look strong, but he is. When he gets to the rim, he can finish through contact. He's gotten stronger. His shot looks better. He's not going to be RJ Davis shooting the ball, but he doesn't have to be. He just has to be somebody that opponents guard. And from what he's shown so far, and granted it is September, I do think his shot is better to the point that teams are at least going to have to respect it, which makes him really dangerous. And you love him running the floor and maybe throwing a lob to like you said, Jay Witt, who and we've talked to him about this some. I think there's college basketball and then there's Carolina basketball. And he played college basketball at Louisville, which is a very good program. They struggled when he was there. And I'm not sure he fully understood exactly what was required from the consistency standpoint and the intensity standpoint to go from here to here and do it at Carolina 35 games over the course of an entire season. And I'm hoping it's going to be helpful for him to have had that year where now he gets it and understands the intensity that is required for a full year, and willing to provide that kind of effort. Because if he buys into what you're talking about and the defensive stuff, and we already know how athletic he is, I mean, he can make plays. Well, last year he could make plays that no one else on the roster could make. Right. This year you got Drake Powell who can make some of those plays, but still he's capable of doing things at a size that you don't have anywhere else on the roster. So there is a pathway to plenty of minutes for Jalen Withers, and hope he can do that because he's a great story, a North Carolina kid who loves playing for the Tar Heels, loves having his family be close by, and hopefully they get to watch him play a long time into this postseason.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I tell you a crazy stat that I heard. I was listening to Isaac Shade with Locked On Tar Heels, and he threw out a stat, and he said that this is Jalen Withers' up year, I guess you could say, because from him being a freshman, he shot like somewhere in the 20% range or something like that in 3 point. His sophomore year, he shot 40 something percent. His junior year, he shot 20 something percent. And now, now it's kind of like this is the up year. So hopefully we can get a little bit more, out of him on the offensive end, and he can shoot pretty good from the three this year and things like that. But I just think defensively, now that he really knows his role, um, and he can really put that to the test, and hopefully it just delivers and shows out on the court as far as him on the defensive end, as far as being that defensive player. So I'm excited. Like I said, man, I can't stress it enough. Like you said, it's closer and closer and closer to basketball season, and we are thrilled about this year's team. There's still a little bit of skepticism, I guess you could say, or whatever, but above all, we're still excited for it. And I mean, football season is already here, so it's just getting rammed up or whatever, or ramped up, I guess you could say, for basketball season. So we can't wait. We cannot wait to see what the Hills look like on the court this year. So let me ask you this: going back to the podcasting thing, taking it off of the team for a second, going back to the podcasting thing. How do you and Jones prepare for like post game interview? Like, remember when I mentioned earlier, like these guys got a studio. They leave from one building and probably walk across the sidewalk or something and go right into their studio. Like, how do you all prepare for like post game interviews like that? And I guess a lot of it has to do with Jones being at the scores table and things like that. But how do y'all prepare for things like that?
Lindsay, I'll tell you the craziest thing is that the best thing I've ever learned about doing a post game interview is don't over prepare for it. Like when I was younger, I would write down the things I wanted to talk about and make sure I hit all those things, and it was just stressful to think of going into one of those without stuff right there in front of me. And what I figured out is if you just sit down and talk to the person, it's going to be so much better. Um, yeah, they're a basketball player, a basketball coach, but they're a person first, and they just want to have a conversation. And if you listen to them and listen to what's important to them and talk about that, that's going to be much better than me going down a list of questions and saying, all right, number 3, you shot 6 for 9. What
Right.
shots did you feel like were working tonight? And we're fortunate too that we do spend some time with these folks, so they're comfortable with us. So I definitely realize we've got some advantages that other people don't because we see them in non-interview contexts pretty regularly. So they're accustomed to sitting down and having a conversation, and that helps us a lot. But I think you can be prepared up until the game happens and during the game, but I don't think you want to over prepare to talk to the folks involved after because just be a person, just talk to them. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think people try to overdo it, and the conversation suffers because of that.
Yeah. Because I've always wondered like how that goes when say Carolina suffers a close loss, I guess you could say. And when you guys do the post game interviews and you have Coach Davis come in, um, obviously he's not in the best of moods because, of course, he probably wanted to win as always. So it's like, how do you prepare for that? Like when it comes to that, because he's not in the best of mood, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, we got to talk to you, coach. Like how to go about like preparing for something like that against somebody that might not be in the best in the best mood or anything. Like they really just wanted to win. They might have received technicals or anything on the sideline. Might have been yelling at the players, and you could be sitting there watching the game and you're watching these responses, and then it's like, oh man, I got to talk to him after the game. Like, like how do you get prepared for something like that? Like I've always wondered how that goes. Like so, I mean, how do you do it, man? Because I don't know how I would be able to handle that. I really don't. I don't know what I would say.
Well, I mean, the great thing about Hubert Davis is he played in the NBA for a really long time. So he's been answering questions after defeats for most of his life almost. And he is ultra, ultra, ultra competitive. I think people have a misconception of him as, oh, he's Mr. Nice Hubert Davis. Look, I have seen him get as fired up about some things as you would ever hope to see Roy Williams get.
Yeah.
So the competitiveness is there. But I think he also understands, like he understands what a big deal Carolina basketball is to folks like you and folks who watch this. And he knows that if the Tar Heels lose, there's going to be some questions, and he's the head coach and he is the spokesman for the program, and it's his job to sit down right there and say why Carolina got outscored from the free throw line, or why the Tar Heels turned the ball over too much, or whatever it is. I think there's a big difference in saying, man, Hubert Davis, you guys were terrible tonight. Is that because you're a bad coach? And saying, Coach Davis, you shot 32% from the field tonight. Was your team just not getting the shots that you wanted them to get, or were they just not falling? What led to that? And he's a basketball guy and appreciates if you ask him basketball questions, and is more often than not willing to answer those as candidly as he possibly can. So I think it really helps having a guy like him in that chair. I think there are some other teams who perhaps have a different situation, where maybe that is not as amicable. But Carolina's lucky that he's not that guy.
Very lucky. Very, very, very lucky. Yes, very lucky. Because like you said, some of them other coaches, man, they get out there and they kind of on the ledge sometimes, and I'm like, all right, tread lightly. Tread lightly, because we know the consequences and repercussions that come behind certain things that you may say, and things like that. So yeah, I like that Hubert doesn't go beyond that. Like and none of the coaches in Carolina history that I know of go beyond that. And I think a lot of that has to do with character. Um, like you said, I mean, Coach Williams, a man of character. Coach Smith, a man of character. Coach Davis, a man of character. Like, and I'm not. That's not saying that none of these other coaches have character, but it's a it's a morality type thing. It's a UNC thing, if I could say that, and I'll say it like that to separate UNC from everybody else, and the coaches from all of the other coaches. It's a UNC thing, and just the way that they handle it, it's character. It just goes to show really what type of person that they are, and and how they treat their players and things like that. At least from looking from the outside in, that's what I've always seen. You know, having Pete on telling stories about Coach Smith was incredible. Stories that I never thought of and that I never heard of. Having David on telling stories about Coach Williams. Um, and I'm sure, hopefully, sometime in the future, have some other players on that tell me some more Coach Davis stories. And I just know Coach Davis is a man of character. He was a Knicks fan, but I know he's got some of that. He got some of that edge in him too. Now, being up there in New York, so I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, so I we got a lot in common. I like Coach for sure. I like Coach for sure. So, um, let me ask you this real quick, Adam. How do you feel about the transfer portal? I just ask everybody this, man, because I just like to get different perspectives on it. And I've heard a lot of different ones, but how do you feel about it? And the NIL, just we'll just bundle them together.
Um, I mean, I don't love it. It's not what I grew up with. It's not what I'm accustomed to.
Yeah,
At the same time, I mean, I've got a son who plays baseball in college, and so it's part of his daily life. And he's had friends and teammates go in the portal after a year they didn't feel like was up to standards.
mhm,
And he's had conversations with them about why would you do this? And I, I I'm sure I'm more old school than some, but I mean, I've told him, you know, there's no guarantee where you go is going to be better. Like they're telling you it's better right now because that's their job. But when you get there and you have to answer the question, am I happier than I was? Maybe, maybe lift weights a little more, maybe work a little harder and see what happens. Like it might be you, it might not be them. Um, and sometimes I think that gets lost some. I mean, it was the restrictiveness on student athletes being able to transfer was too tight. And so we needed to do something.
yeah,
But free agency every single year, there's no other sports league in the world that has that with
right,
no salary cap.
right.
That is not a combination that is sustainable, in my opinion.
Mhm,
Um, but so we were too restrictive. Now we're probably too permissive.
right.
The answer is somewhere in the middle. Um, and hopefully we can eventually land there. Unfortunately, the NCAA was so blind for so many years that now they've reached the point where they're going to be litigated to death. And how does that result? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. That's kind of part of the danger of college athletics right now is that everyone just kind of goes on a day by day basis. I think just today, news came out that Tennessee is going to add 10% to every ticket they sell next year as an NIL fee, basically a talent fee.
Yeah,
So we're already asking fans to buy the tickets, join the booster clubs, and now we're going to raise their ticket prices so they can handle the payroll for us. I don't think that's sustainable.
yeah,
I'm a big Chicago Cubs fan. When the Cubs want to sign a new starting pitcher, they don't come to me and say, "Give us the money."
right,
It's their job to make the money.
right.
So we got a lot of problems right now.
Yeah,
But the problems, luckily, are all in the off season. And when things like the Maui Invitational and the games at the Garden start, then it's fun again. So we just have to all kind of weather the off season and all the problems and things that we really don't want to think about and make it to the games because then ultimately it's Carolina against Duke or it's Carolina against Wake Forest or Carolina against Virginia or whatever. That's fun.
yeah,
So we just got to find a way to make it through that off season so that we can get to the fun stuff again.
yeah. I totally agree with you. Like I never looked at it like you said. Like I said, I get so many different perspectives on it. Just talking with some other guys and things like that, and you know, couple of things that I've heard as far as like I agree with you. The NCAA is completely so far behind that they're ruining a lot of things when it comes to college basketball. And if they don't get a grip on it, it's not college basketball is not going to be fun. Like I love college basketball. I watch it more than I watch the NBA. I watch it more than I watch the NFL, baseball, etc. So but if they don't get a grip on things, then by the time that it's time for them to fix things, it's going to be too late. And like when I talked to David, David's thing was right now they've put it more so now in the players' control, more so than in the school and in the coaches' control, which I totally agree with because now these players are the ones that's just dictating where they want to go. When 9 times out of 10, they probably really don't want to go there, but that school has just offered them buku loads of money and that they want to follow and go wherever the money is. I think there should be a salary cap, but then I don't know how that's going to work for like some of the mid or bottom tier type schools because we know Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky's, the Arkansas teams like that, they're gonna have the money to pay for players. But Carolina's thing is we don't pay for play. That's just not what we do. We base things off of, do you want to come and play for the name on the front of the jersey? And it's always been that way. It's always going to be that way. And a lot of people have said that, just even listening to other podcasters outside, of course, outside of UNC's network, but listening to other podcasters saying that North Carolina is broke, North Carolina don't have no money. This is why they missed out on all of these players. They can't get no recruits and things like that because they don't have any money. And I think that that's just crazy for people to even think that a school with this much history to it is broke. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to me. And I wish people would stop with those narratives, because that could dictate players wanting to come to Carolina in the future. High school recruits, things like that, because if they hear those type of things, first thing they're going to say is, oh, well, Carolina ain't got no money, then why would I want to go there? Yeah, I want to go there, but from what I'm hearing, they broke. They don't have no money. It just don't make sense. And I just wish people would stop that when it comes to that situation, when it comes to the NIL. I do agree that players should get paid, but at the same time, you can't jump out here and just give players $2 million, $3 million, $4 or $5 million, like we've been hearing about certain players out here in high school recruit. It just don't happen that way. So get your money, but it's got to be regulated somehow, some way. As far as the transfer portal, I think there should be a two transfer rule. The first one is, okay, if you transfer one time, that's fine. But then if you decide to transfer again, now you have to stay at the school for at least 2 seasons, 2 years. I mean, I think that could work, because now it puts a little bit more pressure on the player. Because, all right, now that you transfer because you didn't fit right at the with the team that you was on. Okay, now you want to transfer again. So now if you transfer again and you're trying to go to a better team or something like that, okay, now you got to work on your game, and you got to build yourself up to where now you can make yourself known within the team. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's some things. Transfer portal needs to be regulated as well. But it just all depends on what the NCAA does. And like you said, right now they so far behind. I don't think they even have a clue on what they're gonna do. And before they realize it, it's just gonna be too late. It's gonna be too late. So
NCAA is really good at putting on a basketball tournament, although now they're trying to mess it up by making it as big as they possibly can.
right.
But that's what they're good at. They're an event company. They are not a player management company, because they're not run by people who have been through that experience. The current president of the NCAA is a politician. I mean, he didn't have this experience. He doesn't understand. He doesn't speak the language. I think he's probably trying hard, but he didn't live it, and that's a big difference. And so there's a ways to go.
Yeah, it's a long ways to go. Long ways to go. Hopefully, let's start up a committee then, Adam. Let's do something, man. I know some people that would love to be on the committee, man. We got to figure some things out, man, because we got to make some changes before college basketball just ends up getting ruined. I don't want it to end up like the NBA. Like I'm a Knicks fan, but I don't watch the NBA for multiple reasons. I don't like the whole egos that go on in the NBA, the load management. That's still an issue, regardless of whether they want to say that it is or not. Like, and it's just, you're getting all of these players that's just getting all of this money, and they're not producing on the court. So, like, what do you? The NBA got to figure things out as well. And like, I grew up on the Miami Heat, the Knicks, the Bulls, the Jordan era, I grew up in that area with Hakeem Olajuwons and David Robinsons and all of them. So, this new era, I just can't get with it. Hopefully, things will turn around. I mean, I'm watching it a little bit more now because my Knicks are winning. But if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be watching it, to be honest with you. But I just love college basketball because I think that these guys, they have a lot more to play for. They're trying to get into the NBA. They're trying to win a national championship. Sometimes being a player of the year matters to them. Being first team All American matters to them. And there's so many different things for them to be able to play for. And if the NCAA don't figure it out, it's going to ruin college basketball for sure, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what you said about people's perception of Carolina's NIL strength. I mean, I hate to break this to everybody, but it has never been the case that Carolina has been the highest bidder for players in college basketball, because bidding for players has been going on since long before NIL.
Yep.
And you can ask some other schools about that. Carolina's never been the high bidder, but yet somehow we're still sitting here Carolina basketball. And that doesn't mean you can just keep doing what you're doing as the world changes around you. But
right.
it is not necessarily true that if you have the highest payroll, you win every time. It doesn't work like that in any sport that there is. You still got to coach them. You still got to develop them. You still got to in some way make them connect to the place where they are and want to play for that team and represent that team. And that's something that Carolina's always been really good at. You got to continue to be really good at that while also incorporating this new era of which NIL is a tremendous part. But to say that, oh, well, if Carolina is not the high bidder for every single player, the Tar Heels have no hope of winning, that's not accurate either.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, Adam. We'll definitely see what happens. We'll see what changes will be made, because every year it seems like the NCAA comes up with a new rule at the end of the season. So I guess we'll figure it out what the new rules are at the end of this season, this upcoming season or whatever, and see what kind of changes that they've made this time for us to yell at them about, basically, I guess we could say. Because they're not doing a great job. So, but it is what it is or whatever. So listen, Adam, I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, it's an honor to be able to sit down and talk with you. Like I said, you're a legend in my eyes. You, Jones, a lot of the other podcasters, in this North Carolina space. And I appreciate you. I'm gratefully appreciative of you being able to stop by and chop it up with me a little bit today, man. I appreciate that for sure.
Lindsay, I appreciate you having me on. I want to see you at the Smith Center this year. We gotta say hello.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna make that happen. Don't you worry. I'm gonna text you and let you know. Okay, I got tickets for this one. Because I already know you at every home game. I already know that. No doubt about that. So I'm gonna reach out to you and I'm gonna be like, hey, where you sitting at? And then I'm gonna make sure that I make it my duty to get down there and see you, and we get some pictures and things like that. Hopefully I can get a picture with Jones so that but hopefully security don't beat me up or anything. Jones,
be ready.
Yeah. I know you walking around with the security like that, Jones. I didn't know you was like that, my guy. Like, for sure. Like, I might have to talk to them before I even get him on the show. Like, I guess you never know, right?
Just talk to his people.
Got you. I got you. So, Adam, let everybody know where they can find you at, man.
I appreciate it. I'm J. Adam Lucas on all the various social media, and then we're Carolina_pod for all the various podcast stuff we do.
And there you have it. That is my guy, Adam Lucas from Carolina Insider Pod. Appreciate him stopping by. Adam, we got to do this again for sure. You're always welcome anytime you want to. And until then, everybody, on the next show, we'll see y'all.
Chapters on the media.